Hey everyone, this is Patrick, and it's time for another edition of Heavy Therapy. This time I am bringing you my first reactions to the metal releases from the week of February 3rd, 2023. These are 5 or 6 releases that I've already checked out from the albums that were released just this past Friday at the time of recording. And at the end of this video, I'm also including my favorite album from January 2023 that I've heard so far, since it is the end of the month. Okay, so let's begin. So, not going to cover my policy or general approach too much as I did in my very first video of this series, but I will slowly go through, or at least include, these points for those who want to pause and read. I do use a scale of 0 to 10, and think of the scale that you were used to in grade school, high school, and probably even higher education. And remember that this is for fun, and these are just my first general reactions. Sometimes I've heard these albums more than once, but not very often, no more than 2 times, maybe 3 times. Again, these just came out on Friday, February 3rd. First album that I listened to of these new releases was Theatrum with their album Triumphance. Out in Xena Glossy Productions, they are from Italy, and I was struck by the album cover. I was expecting some post-metal or some doom. I think it was advertised as black metal of some sort. 8 tracks, 29 minutes and 37 seconds. And I give this album a 6 out of 10, which for me means I will not be revisiting it. So this is a cool project. It is not very black metal. The only black metal parts that I really hear are maybe the guitar tone. There are guitars on this, but it is most that I really feel like this is more of a sort of dark ambient type project / noise. Dark ambient noise, a little bit of black metal influence. Definitely is a mood setter. Not a bad album by any stretch of the imagination, but 29 minutes and 37 seconds of a quite similar sound throughout. Give this a listen if you're into dark ambient music with a slight touch of black metal guitars and atmosphere. Next up is Godiva with their album Hubris. They're from Portugal. This is symphonic death metal, cinematic death metal. They give you 10 tracks and 45 minutes of it. And this is a 7 out of 10. I lost interest at various times throughout my one and only listen to this. I like the production choices. I like the big ambition that they obviously had putting it all together. There's lots of layers, lots of different sounds that come in and out. Not necessarily something that I enjoyed all that much, but I think if you're into symphonic music, symphonic metal, you might like it more than I did, so I am giving it a 7. Anything 7 and below is typically stuff for me that I most likely will not come back and revisit, though there are always exceptions. Next up is the big release of the year as far as underground goes. This is Sanguisugabogg and their sophomore release, Homicidal Ecstasy, out on Century Media. They're one of these new bands coming out from the Ohio scene. I definitely did not get the time and minutes right there, the track number and the minutes right there. So I was not going to listen to this whole album because I'm just not a fan of I was not a fan of their first album at all. I didn't think any of their singles for this album so far were interesting, but I was poked and prodded and asked to cover it on metal Twitter by my friend Kevin, and I realized, you know what? I kind of have a little bit of a reputation here, right? Like, I do first reactions on Twitter for the last 3 years. This is a big album. I can't give it a rating unless I listen to the entire album. So I gave it a listen, and yeah, did not like this one very much at all. I give it a 4 out of 10. This to me is like the skeleton and the sort of scratch rhythm tracks of something like Undeath, but that's all they brought to the studio. That's all they have in their toolkit. Um, no leads, all rhythm guitars. The drumming performance is pretty decent. It even has that ping snare tone a little bit, but it's still yeah. The drumming is the best part of this album. For fans of Suicide Silence, maybe if you like more simple, brutal death metal, you might like this. But yeah, not a big fan of this band, not a big fan of this release. I have nothing negative to say about them as far as people, as far as what they're trying to achieve here. Just not my cup of tea. And I had to give it an honest rating according to my one listen through. 4 out of 10. One of my least favorite albums that I've heard over the last few years. Next up is All Out War with their album Celestial Rot, on translation Loss. This is a hardcore band, metallic hardcore band from Newburgh, New York. This is their 9th or 10th full length. They've been around for a long time, 30 plus years, I believe. 10 tracks, 25 minutes, and 38 seconds of music. I was drawn to this one by seeing that, I actually checked out their second album sort of randomly a couple of weeks ago, and then I saw that they had a new album coming out. Then I saw that they were going to be on the cover of Decibel, and their second album that I listened to was definitely, pretty good metallic hardcore. I hear a lot of modern bands that are I can understand that they were influenced by All Out War. I'm thinking of Judiciary. It's a good example. But this is more of a blackened affair, and this is actually, so I gave it a 7.1 after my very first listen, which means 7.1 means I'm gonna give it another listen to see if I really end up wanting to purchase it, wanting to listen to it more. And I got through 1.5 listens, and I dropped it down to a 7. Parts of this I really like their experimentation with more blackened style. I like the aggression here. I like it. Again, I like it on paper. Just, I need a little bit more. I needed a little bit more from my listening experience. It didn't draw my attention, and it only had 25 minutes to do so. So that should have been easy to keep my attention. But yeah, I'm not going to drop this below a 7 because it's definitely going to be, higher than a 7 for many, many listeners, many hardcore fans. Like that it's blackened hardcore. This is a cool release. Just not something that I'm going to be going back to probably ever. But I can understand if you would want to. All Out War, Celestial Rot. Next up, this is my favorite album of the week so far. This is Scáth, Déithe with Virulent, Providence, out on Vendetta Records. They're from San Diego, California. You get 2 tracks here. 40 minutes of music, so each track is about 20 minutes. Blackened death metal, 8 out of 10. Eager to go back to this. I only listened to it once. This was my first reaction, my first initial enjoyment factor. 8 out of 10. Good listen. I like albums like this that attempt 2 or 3 songs across an album. Time to breathe, time to develop dynamics, time to really engulf the listener in an atmosphere. And yeah, pretty cool release. Definitely check it out. I haven't seen too many people talk about it so far. It's only been 3 days. But yeah, check out Virulent Providence by Scáth, Déithe. butchering the name, I'm 100% sure, but that is what it is. So since this is wrapping up the first week of this next month here, the first week of February, I had time to listen to a couple more January releases that I didn't cover in my first reaction so far. So my favorite album from January 2023 so far is Thy Darkened Shade, Liber Lucifer II Mahapralaya, out in World Terror Committee Productions. They are from Greece. This is at least their third full length, I believe. I've listened to this album 5 times so far. I love it. This is a 9 out of 10. This makes me think of Behemoth's The Satanist. But this is really technical, dissonant black metal. And the drumming performance is wild. So many fills, so many different things going on. The guitar work is brilliant. The vocals are all over the place, highs, lows. There's layers going on. I just love everything about this listening experience. I did listen to it with my partner the other day, and always when you're sharing music with somebody who might not be feeling it the same way you are, you're kind of listening with a bit of different ears. Maybe you're kind of trying to imagine what it's like to be inside their head, and you're thinking, they might not like this part, or I can see why that's taking too long. So yeah, it's a long album, about 1 hour and 1 minute long or something like that. They probably could have taken out an entire one track entirely, and I wouldn't have missed it. But I don't know which one that would be. The penultimate track starts off maybe for 2 or 3 minutes of kind of a lot of what you've already heard on the album, but then by the end of it, brings me back in. And then that final track is one of my favorites on the album. Really brings the album down to a nice, just a nice plateau, a nice soft landing. Sometimes I feel like this is a little bit less of a little bit less than a 9, but yeah, for now, you know what? This album is a 9 out of 10 for me. My favorite album from January 2023 so far. This is what black metal can sound like in the technical, ambitious space in 2023, in my opinion. This would be tough to beat. Please, so hopefully you check out some of these albums and you let me know how you feel about them. What are your favorite albums of January 2023? What did you think of releases from this week so far as well? And yeah, talk to you all in the comments later.